Hello everyone, this is Raja Ramesh and welcome back to TypeScript and Playwright Journey. In the previous video, we have learned about objects. In this video, we will see different loops in TypeScript. Let us assume we have a task that is to be repeated certain number of times. You know or you don't know how many number of times that is to be executed. But there is a task which is to be executed more than once. In that case, you can use the concept of loops. In any programming language, we have different kinds of loops. TypeScript supports most of those. On the screen, you are seeing the loops that are supported by TypeScript. First one is for loop. It is used to repeat a block of code a specific number of times. So whenever you know how many number of times the block of code to be executed, then you can go for using for loop. While loop runs a block while a condition is true. Go for while loop when you don't know the exact number of times the loop to be executed. So you have initialization and you just provide a condition and the loop should be executed till that condition is satisfied. If the condition is not satisfied in the beginning itself, the while loop will not execute the block at all. If you have a requirement that your code should be executed at least once, even the condition given is false, you can go for do while loop. So when you use do while loop, it runs the block at least once and then it checks the condition. And for off loop, it is actually used on arrays. To loop through the elements of the arrays, we use for off loop. And for in loop, it works on objects. If you remember from previous classes, when we are working with objects, we have some properties and we call that as keys, and those keys can be retrieved using for in loop, with which we can get the value of that key as well. So property name and property value will be retrieved. But we will cover this in a separate video because we can see more examples for that. Let us see this in action. Open your Visual Studio Code and create a new file called loops.demo.ts. I have already created this for you. And we will start with for off loop which runs on arrays. Because in the earlier class where we discussed arrays, we used for loop to loop through the arrays. Instead of for, here we will use for off loop. So if you remember the arrays creation, array is a collection of elements under the same name. So we have an array called colors and we have 3 elements in that, red, green and blue. We can use for off loop to get the elements from the colors array. The syntax will be let some temp variable which stores the value from the array. Usually we use the singular form of array name itself because array contains multiple values of same type. Usually we keep the name with plural form, colors. So singular form of that colors is color. For each color of the array name is colors. What it does is from the array colors, one value at time will be retrieved and that will be saved into color. And now what we need to do in the block is we can simply log the value of color to the console. Console.log color. See, we are logging color to the console and remember what color has. Color has one value at a time from the colors array. So in the first iteration, it gets the first value from the colors array. In the second iteration, it should get the second value, and in third iteration, it should get the third value. And if all elements are done, it will come out of the loop. And just to show that, we can write another console.log statement over here, console.log done. I'll save this and I will execute this using the command ts-node and the file name. If you run this, you see the output as red, green, blue, done. Done is the value printed because of line number 8, and if you see the remaining lines, we got red, green and blue. Sorry, there is a spelling mistake. So clear this and run it again. Red, green and blue. So one value from the array at a time will be retrieved from colors array and it will be saved to color and that we logged. We can use this value for whatever operation you will be doing in this block. So this is how for of loop works. I will comment this and let us see the for loop. As we discussed earlier, we go for loop when we know the number of iterations. Means we already know how many number of times the code is to be executed. So I have a block of code, for example, this is the block of code, and let's say anything like some console log statement itself, console.log and hello. I just want to print hello. So I want to print hello 10 times. How can we do that? Means either we can copy the same line and repeat it for 10 times, but that is not the ideal way. So this is a very basic scenario where we need to use for loop, because we have one statement that is to be executed multiple number of times. Of course, you can say like it is a simple line, we can copy it and paste it for 10 times. But if our real-time example is having multiple lines of code and it may have complex calculations as well, then it is not ideal to copy paste that same code multiple number of times. So we can simply use for loop in that case. This may be, you can consider like if we have n number of orders to be processed, we already know the number of orders. So you have a logic to process a particular order. Do this, do this, do this, do this, like that. So there are list of actions to be performed sequentially till the order is processed, and the same steps to be followed for the second order, the same steps to be followed for the third order, like that till 50th order also. So you know the number of orders you already have. In that case, you can use the for loop. So for our example to be simpler, I'll just print this line for now 10 times, and this is the block of code. Before this, we will be adding for loop for let take some value and initialization part. So the first iteration we are starting with 1, second iteration 2, third iteration 3. So we just want to have a initialization part and the condition part I less than or equals to 10, because I said we will be printing hello 10 number of times. So 1 to 10, 10. Okay, and I should be incremented one at a time, so that we say like, okay, I value is 1 in the first iteration and it is going to check the condition whether it is true or false. It is true, 1 is less than or equal to 10, and hello is getting printed. And then at the control comes to I++. I++ means I equal to I plus 1. So I value will be becoming 2. When I is 2, it will not go to the initialization statement again. Once the loop is started means the initialization part will be done only once. And later in each iteration, it will be going to the condition checking, and 2 is less than or equal to 10. It is checking this condition, 2 is less than 10, true, and the block will be executed and hello will be printed. Again, it will be incremented by 1 and I will become 3. So the same thing happens till the I value becomes 10, and 10 less than or equal to 10, which is again true, and console log will be executed and I will become 11. 11 less than or equal to 10, which is false, and hence the control comes out of the loop. If you run this, I'll clear this and I will run this. If you see here, hello, 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 like that. Okay, if you want, instead of hello, maybe iteration, and I will print the value of I as well. If you see this by running it again, clear the console and run it, you see iteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we will take another example if required. Maybe our requirement is to print a math table like this. So 1 into 2 equals to 2. 2 into 2 equal to 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. So on. 10 times 2 is 20. So I just want to print this. So what I need to do, if we don't have any loops, means I'll be just logging this thing in the console. So we just will write a console log statement, console.log, and simply 1 into 2 equals to 2. 1 times 2 equal to 2. So this will be printed once. So 10 similar statements I have to write in order to achieve this. Instead of that, I will depend on for loop for this. We will see how we can do that. We will first write for loop for let I equal to 1, because 1 times 2 is our primary requirement. Okay, and I less than or equal to 10, because we need to continue till 10 also. This is the requirement. And I plus plus, and I will keep the line in our loop body. Let us see what happens if we run this. So yes, you guessed this correct. The same line will be printed 10 times. But our requirement is we need to change this. So understand from the output which is printed over here. So, and this is the requirement. What exactly is changing in our requirement? The first position, n times 2, n times 2, n times 2. Or consider I times 2. I times 2 is 4. I times 2 is 6. I times 2 is 8. So the value I is changing. In our loop also, the value of I itself is changing. If you see here, the value getting changed here is I. So you can replace this with I. So I, comma, this one. And let us run this again. Clear this and run this and see what happened here. 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 2, like that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this part is also good, times 2 times 2 times 2. But if you see the output, the right hand side is not yet implemented. So we will see this as well. So instead of this, what exactly to be done is here, what is the output? So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 2, and the actual expected is 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 should be 4. So what we are doing, 2 is multiplied by 2, and 3 times 2 is 6, 3 is multiplied by 2. And what actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in our loop is I. So write I times 2. So this is what actually required here in the right hand side after equal to. So let us clear this and run it again. See, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8, and our problem is solved. So this is how we use for loops. We know how many number of times the loop is to be executed. This is a simple calculation, and this line is to be executed 10 times, and we depended on for loop for this. And we will see about while loop. So as we discussed, if we don't know how many number of times our code to be executed, then we can go for while loop. In real time, this might be while some condition is met or not met, something to be happened. For example, assume like you are working on some e-commerce application and you are restocking some items or accepting some orders. The requirement might be accept orders when we have this much of stock, or you have to go for restock and accept the restock items till the stock limit reaches till here, like that. So for example, you may have stock of 5 units, and you want to purchase the stock from your supplier till the stock becomes 100. So maybe you placed one order and you don't know how much the supplier is sending. So you just placed an order, that's all. And the supplier sent 10 and now your stock became 15. So while the stock is less than 100. So for example, I'll write as comment only while stock is less than 100, and you just place order, and for this place order supplier stock of some units. You don't know how much they'll be sending. You are just placing a request for an order, and based on their availability also they will send some units, and you will add that to your stock. So you have stock initially, and that is a number. Let stock, and it is a number, and you have that 5 initially. While stock is 100, while stock is less than 100, you are going to place an order, and supplier sends the stock of some units. You don't know how many number of units they'll be sending. Once they send some units, what you will do is you will add that number of units to your stock. So stock equal to stock plus units they have sent. This what we will see this line now. So in our example, in the first iteration, supplier sent 10 units and our stock became 15 because we already have 5 in our stock. And while stock less than 100, the code is ended in the loop. So it go back to 36 number, and it checks the stock is less than 100, which is true because we still have 15, and it comes to the loop body and does the logic whichever is required to place the order, and the supplier also sends that, and the supplier sends 50 units this time, and stock equal to stock plus units 15 plus 50, which is 65, and the loop is the control is in 40, and it will go to 36 again to check whether stock is still less than 100. Yes, it is still less than 100, which is true, and it goes inside the block, and it does the it executes the logic which requires to place an order, and supplier sends the stock again. That logic will be executed. Say the supplier sent 50 units again, and in this line it became 115 because we already have 65, and the new stock is 50. The total is 115, and it comes here and it goes back to check the condition again. Stock less than 100, 115 less than 100, which is false now, and hence the loop body will be executed and control comes out of the loop. So this while loop is ended now. So in this case, you don't know how many number of times you need to place an order. Uh, if you know, like the supplier will be sending 10 units per order for sure, means you know, okay, 5 you already have, and you can calculate based on that, and you can place 10 orders. And you can use the for loop, keep on placing the orders for 10 times, so that 10 10 10 10 total it will become 10 100 will be placed, and to 5 you already have 105, so that you reach that limit. But you don't know in this case how many number of units will be coming. So this is one of the example you can use while loop. And just to we don't know. As of now, we are not placing an order, and we are not writing a logic to supplier will be sending. But even now we can write simple lines of code, but we need to supply the units count here, right? So we will be seeing the methods and everything in further videos. That's why I'm not going to explain that example now, but we will simply write a while loop to print numbers from 1 to 5 again. Okay, just to know the syntax, everything. So initially we will be taking let I again. I will be commenting this. Anyhow, that will not be impacting, but I just don't want to see the output again here. So let I is a number equal to 5 initially, and I will start my while loop while the condition to be checked is I less than or equal to 5, because I want to print 5 also. Or if you want to use strictly less than only means, then you need to place this as 6 because you want 5 also. Anything is fine. So while I less than or equal to 5 can be used here. Console dot log, you just need to print I. That's all. Or if you want to be more clear, maybe iteration I, as we have seen in earlier example as well. And if we run this, there will be a problem, because see what happens. I is 1 initially, and it is checking whether I is less than 6 or not. It is true, and it is printing I, and it is coming here. Again it is going back here, and it is checking whether I is less than 6. I is still 1. Unlike for loop, we never incremented the value of I, or we didn't change anything in I. So it will be executed I1, iteration 1 printed, again iteration 1 printed, so on. So it will be going to an infinite loop which will not be ended forever. So I'll just modify I value 1. Anyhow, why I am incrementing by 1? Because I told you the requirement is to print the numbers from 1 to 5. Initially it is 1 and next number should be 2. That's why I'll be printing I only. So it will be 2, it will be 3, it will be 4, it will be 5, it will be 6, and 6 legs less than 6 is false. So it will not print 6. If you run this code, the iteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is executed. And now we will see about do while. Even do while works similar to while, but in while actually we are checking the condition and doing the action. I mean, we are checking the condition first, and if the condition is true, then only the code will be executed. But in do while, it is something like do the part of first and check the condition next. Okay, so I'll write the same example again. While I less than 6, and I am just writing the console log statement over here, and we don't have I previously, so we have to write let I number equals to 1 initially. See, if you run this code again, clear, and run this, sorry. So it, see, this is the problem we'll get. We are ended up with infinite loop. It printed iteration 1, 1, 1 like that. I hit Control C so that the it will be terminated, because we did not change the value of I. Okay, I will clear this and I will run loops again, and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are printed. Why we want to go to do while loop when the same thing is being done by while loop also? Means you don't know. I mean, this is for an example only, but you don't know the real-time scenario. What is the value of I initially? So we want to give the user at least one chance so that the code will be executed at least once, even the condition is false. For example, maybe you are working with an application, a banking application, and you are trying for a log or ATM transaction. So the user have to enter the PIN or password in the beginning. So first they should be allowed to enter their ATM PIN, and then we need to check that whether it is true or false. So in the do block, they will be asked to enter their PIN. I mean, there will be some logic. I am not going to demo that because that is not in the scope for now. So there will be some logic, maybe web logic like prompt, so that user will be prompted to enter some value, and that will be saved to some string or some number based on the requirement, so that the given value will be saved into some value over here, like some variable will be there. I will be prompted to enter some number. Okay, so and that prompt val result will be saved into I will be changed to number because it is number, and then it is checked with a proper value. I mean, we will execute some logic which will be checking whether the given value I is correct pin or not, and we are saving that in a boolean variable is pin correct like that, and in the while we will just check whether the pin is correct or not. So we need to take some boolean value. So let is pin correct, and it is boolean, and we are assigning that as false. Initially in the do, we will be asking for the pin, and user enters something, and that will be saved to I, and we will be validate if I is correct pin. If it is correct, make is correct pin as true, otherwise ignore. Okay, so if correct, then make this value as true. Okay, so we will see the conditional statements if and everything, and of course we if you are interested, we will come back to the logic and we will implement this ATM application gathering the values, because we this is a bit earlier to go through all those things. That's why we will stick to the textual example only. Okay, so if the pin provided which is I is correct, we will be updating is pin correct value with true, and here instead of I less than 6 we will be writing while is pin not correct. So when the pin is not correct, I mean in this value will be saved if true. So whatever the condition you are checking with, it will be returning either true or false. So this will be executed when the condition is true only, right? So it is a boolean value, so we don't need to check again equal to true or not like that. So simply if while true like that we can mention, I mean while true, if we place like this means it will be a problem again, because while true is always going to execute the loop again. So while is pin is not correct, maybe I'm negating because initially the pin is not correct. Maybe when this will be executed means when we have false in is pin correct, it will be negated and it will become true. Then while true, this will be executed. So if it is false, I mean we'll be prompting for the first time, and user entered correct pin, say. So whatever the logic which is required to check whether the pin is correct or not, that is executed, and is pin correct is updated with true because the pin is correct. Now while not is pin correct, so we have true in this, so it becomes false because of negation. While false, so the condition becomes false over here, so the do block will not be executed again. But if the user entered a wrong pin, so the logic is done here, and we determined the is pin correct as false again because we did not do this assignment reassignment, we did not update. So we still have is pin correct equal to false only. So it will be executed while is pin correct, not is pin correct. So in this we have false. false will become true because of this negation. So we have true entirely. So while true, execute the do block. But remember the basic difference between while and do while. So when you use do while, the user gets at least one chance even the condition is going to be false for the first time itself, because the statements to be executed are preceding the condition checking part. Whereas here the condition checking is preceded by the statements to be executed. So here itself we are checking the condition in while. So we did not get a chance to execute the statements inside while. Got it? So this is the difference between while and do while, and we have seen for loop also. Like you don't need to remember, like don't think like we need to increment value always or increment by one only, like that. That is based on your requirement. But if my requirement is not that, maybe if I was asked to print numbers from 10 to 1, then I should decrement the value. I need to initialize from 10. So let I will start from 10 because the initialization, the requirement is starting from 10. So initializing from 10, and the condition to be satisfied is when till where we need to execute till the value of I is greater than or equal to 1 or greater than 0. Okay, so greater than or equal to 1. And I minus minus because I want to print 10 9. Next number is 9, because you know the logic. Based on that you are providing the code, you are writing the code. So you know the value to be decremented by 1 for your requirement. Your requirement is to print 10, after that 9, after that 8. That is why you are decrementing by 1. And just simply write console.log I. Okay, so this will be printing the numbers from 10 to 1. Sorry, what? Less than or equal to ms, sorry. So it is printing the numbers from 10 to 1. See this? This is how. So that will be based on your requirement. Okay, so if you want, okay, we'll look at another example. You are asked to print the even numbers from 2 to 10. Okay, so for that also you can use for loop let I equal to 2, because you know from where you need to start from. You have to start from 2. That is why we are initializing. And till what value you need to execute your code means less than or equal to 10. I should be 10 maximum. Okay, because you are asked to print till 10 only. And you know the even number logic, when I is 2 and next even number is always plus 2. So I equal to I plus 2. So you can, sorry, simply console.log I, because it is initialized with 2 and it is incrementing I by 2 always in the next iteration, because the next even number of 2 will be definitely plus 2 only, right? If any given number is even number, plus 2 will always be an even number. So if you run this again, clear, and this code 3 2 4 6 8 10, like that. Similarly you can print odd numbers or whatever. So this is about loop, and we will discuss for in loop in separate video, because we'll see that with more number of examples. So this is the end of loops you can consider. We covered the for loop, while and do while, and the differences. And just to recap the things you have learned, you will be using for loop when you know how many number of times your code is to be executed. In that case you go for loop. You don't know the number of times the code to be executed, then go for while loop, so that you will be checking a condition, and while that condition becomes true you do that. Do while loop also the same thing, but while and do while the difference comes into picture when we are actually checking the condition. In do while we are executing the code and checking the condition, so that the code in the log will be executed at least once, even the condition becomes false for the first time itself. And for off loop can be used with arrays, and we will discuss about for in loop in separate video. That's all. Let's meet in next video. Till then, just try to do hands-on on loops, so that you'll be comfortable with writing more programs. And these are the basic concepts which are required, even whether you are learning TypeScript for programming, I mean to become a developer, or just to learn playwright also. Loops is very important topic you have to learn. Alright, let's meet in next video. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.